Hello and good morning, Joe. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you, Arrow? It's good to be back on with you.
Absolutely, because you are a man that knows where to go, where to grow, and when to get there. you know,
Yes, well, that's what they say. I am constantly on the move.
well, they say that, remember the old term, around the world in 80 days. Well, you take us around the world in 389 pages. I mean, it is amazing, this book.
Thank you. It was an amazing experience putting it together.
What went into it? Because, I mean, the research is something that a lot of people don't understand, but you do respect it once you dive into these pages.
Yeah, I mean, it was a multi-year effort. There was a lot of cities that I went to for the first time for this book, but it was also an accumulation of places that I had been for other projects over the past couple of years. So, and even going back, some of the cities I revisited from my backpacking days, but there were memories that went into this book. So it's really almost like a lifetime effort, this particular book.
One of the things that you feature on the cover of 100 Cities, 5,000 Ideas is I'm in love with skylines. Skylines are my life. And so is there a skyline that you have seen that when you arrive in that city, you go, yeah, I'm here. I feel it.
Well, there's a couple of them, I mean, driving in from one of the airports in New York City and seeing the Manhattan skyline, especially at sunrise and that early morning sun squinting off of the skyscrapers, that's always kind of iconic. And I kind of feel the same way about San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Landing there and touching down and seeing the bridges, and whether you land on the Oakland side or the San Francisco side, it's kind of that wow, I'm back in San Francisco. I love that the pyramid is there and the Golden Gate Bridge, and there's others like that too. New York and San Francisco I'm more familiar with because it's in the States and I live here and I've been there a million times, it seems like. And but there's other cities. Hong Kong is an amazing place. I lived there for 3 years and I never ever got tired of the skyline.
Wow.
And I never got tired of landing at the old airport there because the plane just came in like 100 feet above the buildings and landed at Kai Tak. So those are some of the ones that really come to mind right away. Sydney, Australia, the Opera House and the bridge is just an incredible skyline that really sticks out. And the Istanbul with its mosques and minarets, and nowadays with the big high-rise buildings as a backdrop, and Istanbul, that's another iconic skyline.
You talk about San Francisco, and right away I have a flashback of being in Chinatown. The smell, I mean, just the food, the people, the little shops you can go in there and snoop in and stuff like that. There's an adventure in Chinatown.
There is, and it's still there. And it's actually bigger than it used to be. I mean, when I was a kid, it was about 4 or 5 blocks long, and now it's probably 30 square blocks because it's spilled over into North Beach and down towards Union Square, and it's much bigger than it used to be, and it's more than Chinese food now. It's Vietnamese and Korean, and it's become more like Asia Town, although it's still San Francisco's, Chinatown.
One thing that I'm noticing lately is that in everyday conversations and stuff like that, where you ask people, where are you going for your honeymoon or where are you going to go for your vacation? Mumbai, it seems to be the big thing right now, where it's almost like it's just across the street. I mean, they don't treat it as like I have to go a long ways, but people are going there.
Yes, they are. That's one of the places that I was at a very young age as a backpacker, and then in more modern times. And it's one of the cities that I find that's changed the most in the world. Really? There's a couple places like that. Shanghai is like that. Dubai is like that. I don't think people really realize that 30 years ago, Dubai was barely even a city. It was a Gulf fishing port. And Mumbai is kind of like that. The old core is still there down along the waterfront. But it's got amazing high-rise buildings now. It has amazing restaurants that were never there before and hotels. And it is, if there was a hot list for people to go to, it would definitely be on that, the top 5, top 10.
Every city has its own.
I think actually, I was going to say, I think Bollywood and the fact that Americans now can view kind of classic Indian movies, I think had a lot to do with the popularity, like Slumdog Millionaire and things like that, that people wanted to go see this city.
Joe, we have a theater here, Regal Stonecrest, that plays the Bollywood movies. You should see the lines of people that are waiting to get in to see these movies.
Yeah, oh, I believe it. And my local cinemas here on the California coast have started showing Indian movies with the American ones. So that's a recent development, but they're popular, and movies, as we know, tend to encourage people to go places, whether it's Kenya for out of Africa or Bali because Julia Roberts was there or wherever it was. Movies do prompt a lot of tourism.
Mm-hmm. Every city has a hidden secret. For instance, sure, we can go down to Charleston, South Carolina and check out all the history and stuff like that, but I still believe that a lot of people go down there because of the food. There's just something about food in the South that just brings people in. Oh, yeah,
and it's not just Charleston or New Orleans, which are kind of the famous food cities. Savannah is another great food city that's very similar to Charleston, but I don't think people think of Atlanta as being a great foodie destination, but it actually is, because it's a crossroads of Southern cooking and amazing Asian cuisine because of the immigrants who now live in Atlanta. And you have, you can get probably food from 100 different countries in Atlanta now, which wasn't possible before. And the whole Beltline thing, which was the old railway track that went around Atlanta, that is now being turned into a greenway, a hiking and biking path, has attracted a lot of restaurants and these little clusters of amazing outdoor places to eat and microbreweries. And I think you have to be from Atlanta to realize that those places are there, but Atlanta is a great city for food now.
Well, see, and that's why this book is so important, because it is 100 cities, 5,000 ideas, and I think one of the main focuses here is when to go. So that means that people need to start planning, because as the world starts to loosen up, those reservations are not going to be there.
Well, it's already loosened up in a lot of places. It's if you wanted to go someplace where there were no people, you should have gone in probably May or June of 2020. Yeah. Right now, I try to go, unless it's a far northern hemisphere place, I try not to go in the summer. Mm-hmm. I try now to go, it really cuts it down a lot, April or October. Oh. Or even early November or late March. The shoulder season used to be May and September. But now a lot of people are traveling in those months trying to avoid summer. I was in Europe I've been to Europe 3 times this year already, and I was there in April. And it was refreshingly uncrowded in some of the places that normally are, like Dubrovnik in Croatia, which is super popular now because of Game of Thrones. And I know people told me in the summer it's just impossible. There's 3 million people and there's all these cruise ships. But in April, it was really nice. There were enough people to make you feel like you weren't alone, but it wasn't terribly overcrowded. It wasn't overcrowded at all. So I would really say try to pick places in April and October. The weather's probably going to be pretty good. And the crowds are not going to be, it's not going to be so crowded, but that's my recommendation. That's what I try to do. Wow. But if you're going to go to Alaska, you pretty much got to do it in, August, September, maybe October, but really depends on where it is. There are places like tropical island cities that you can go to any time of year. It really doesn't matter.
Wow, what a brilliant book. I love your journey, and I love the way that you're so willing to talk about it, Joe.
All right, yeah, thanks. And it's great being able to talk with you again, Errol.
Absolutely. Come back anytime. That door is always open.